Hello, everybody. All right. How are you today? Anna Sabramowicz here. Hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday, March the 12th. All right. So if you haven't been here before, thank you so much for stopping by. And maybe you're interested in scenario design. So if this is something you want to get a deep dive on, visit scenariodesignSecrets.com, and there you'll be able to see one of my training videos, and it talks more about my specific framework and how I use it, how I came up with it. And also, if you want personalized help, guess what? You can also sign up for a free session with me where we basically go over your process and dig into that a little bit more and see where your gaps are, and maybe I can help you. Now, one of the reasons I'm doing this live today is because yesterday I had a strategy session, and somebody, this is funny because somebody actually sent me a message about this the other day as well. And I thought, okay, 2 in a row, that means I should talk about this. So one of the things that they brought up was the fact that they've been struggling with talking to subject matter experts about their scenarios. And they get frustrated with the SME because the SME, usually subject matter expert, doesn't get their process and doesn't give them like juicy stuff. It's very like mechanical, right? So then they don't have good stuff to put into the scenarios. And I said, okay, that's cool. Let me just learn more about your process, right? So tell me, how do you engage with the SMEs? Like, what's your scenario process, right? And they're like, well, what I do is I find the most knowledgeable and senior, usually expert at my company. And then what I do is I ask them for an interview, and I follow all your steps, and I interview them. My face is always on if it's remote, they see me. I make sure that I record it, so I'm not taking copious notes. I'm really listening. I use the why method. And I was like, that's rocking. That's great, right? The why method, the 5 whys. Don't stop on the first why, keep on asking. And I'm like, that's great. Okay, so what's your actual process for then after that? And they're like, well, okay, so I take that recording, I get it transcribed, and then I get the script. I'm like, okay, sounds good so far. And then they're like, and then I go to the computer, and then I try and build the scenario and storyline. I'm like, okay, so what's your system? What's your process for the scenario? And they're like, well, I just try and look through that transcript, and I try and pull out stuff that's good, that sounds like a good scenario, and then I build something. And I'm like, okay, right, I see that. By the way, if you want help, like one-on-one with this stuff, scenariodesignSecrets.com. I know I'm giving you good advice here. However, some people need a little bit extra. Go there, you'll learn a bit more. Maybe you should talk to me. And if you're on this live stream, say hi. And if you type in scenariodesignSecrets.com into the comments, so people can actually just click on that link instead of having to type it, if you're able to, that would be awesome. All right, so I talked to that person, and I'm thinking, okay, and this is one of the reasons why talking to somebody else who understands how these things should work is great, because I think a lot of us get advice from peers who, 1, don't understand what we're doing, or 2, from people who are reviewers, but they're not a part of that process. So it's very hard for them to analyze where there's a gap. That's my job. I mean, my job is to look at, question these things, and give you kind of tough love advice saying, you're missing something here. This is what's missing. This person didn't have a system. So if you don't have a system, it's a case of the blind leading the blind. If you don't know what your system, what your process is for building that scenario, you're coming to that SME and you're hoping that whatever comes out of their mouth is going to be useful to you later on. That's the wrong approach. No, stop this. This is what you need to do. You need to have, first, a system, a process for your scenarios. Then, once you've got that solid, you don't enter those meetings going, I'm just going to let it all unfold. When I tell you to interview the SME, listen intently, see what stories come out, it's not random. You're asking specific questions that are related to filling in each one of these pieces. The SME, this is what's beautiful about this. The SME does not have to know what this looks like. The SME does not have to necessarily know what you're designing at all. In the least, they don't even have to know what e-learning means. This is how beautiful this is. If you have a system, all of your questions to the SME are simply there to elicit a response that helps you fill in that spot in your module. It is no longer guesswork. So to them, it sounds like you're doing an interview. You're going, well, okay, tell me about this, and how about this? You're doing that very strategically. So it sounds like a conversation, but then when you get that transcript back, it's chunked into these discrete pieces. If you walk in there expecting the SME to give you a whole lot of gold, and then you're going to try and figure this out, it's a big mess. Of course, this person's frustrated with their SME. This person has no clue, and neither do you, right? So then that's kind of hard. You got to have a system first, and then once you have that system, you tap into the experts. This is what's beautiful about this as well. Can you tell I'm excited about this? And I think it's beautiful. So one of the things that's awesome is that when you're working with a SME and it's very targeted, this came up remember I said I got a message too. The message also said, we have people who are really excited about giving us time and information up front, so subject matter experts, top performers. But then once it gets down to the end of the project and reviewing, it's like they all fall off and disappear. I get that. What's this person's number one priority? To be an expert and awesome at the job that they already do. Your project, totally secondary to them, right? It's not important. So that's why this is super important. You need them to create amazing learning, right? You do. They're an expert, but their time is limited. So you have to do your due diligence up front and be super prepared so that when you get their time, it is like you're like a surgeon. It's like laser focus. They can go on and on talking during that hour or hour and a half that you've booked them for that initial interview. But baby, you got to be like focused. So you get the right info right from the start. Then when review time comes, you haven't basically wasted a ton of their time. You've actually created some awesome scenarios. And then when it's review time, they're not like completely exhausted and spent because you've spent days and days. Can you give me more? Can you look at this more? Can you give me more feedback? It's been really targeted, focused, and the stuff you're producing is pro. So that's why, if you're the kind of person who struggles with SMEs, you got to look at your process, because if you can get this done, and you can, by leveraging that person's time, and we're talking about like 2-3 hours, if you can do that, boom, you're done. And they're going to be happy. And then they're going to work with you again. And then they're going to spread the word saying, this person's got a system, and this person is respectful of my time. And it makes total sense, right? So you want to be respectful of that person's time. And then you can actually, create things that are efficient for you as well. Because you don't want to have to go up to that screen and just have to like invent things from that transcript that came out of there, right? So yeah, me, love it. All right. So if you have any questions about that, seriously, post them in the comments. Would love to hear from you. And it's funny because I was thinking about, well, maybe I'll just come up with some ways that people mess this up. And I thought, what's the point, right? There's tons of ways to approach a project badly, and I've certainly been there, because one of the things that happened is I used to struggle with these projects as well. And one of the things that I used to always do is like do a post-mortem. And during the post-mortem, you would think about, hey, can I do this more efficiently? How come that was so painful? How come these people didn't really get it? And as you do more and more of that, and you see a consistent pattern across, the projects that you're working on, and you see, hey, maybe I'm the common denominator here. Is it my process? Let's try something new. So through that, I basically realized that I have to come in there with this system already baked in to the process. And then that makes that a much more effective. So I hope you found that useful. And if you have any questions, visit scenariodesignSecrets.com, because there I have more videos and I actually have more resources for you to check out. You can also book a session with me. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and maybe I'll talk to you real soon. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye. And thanks for stopping by.